Today, we're going to journey back in time, way back, to explore the wisdom of a figure who is just as mysterious as he is influential, the great sage Laozi. So I want to start with a question that kind of flips our whole modern mindset on its head. In a world that is constantly telling us to hustle, to manage everything, to take charge, what if the real power, the true power, lies in doing the exact opposite?
Well, that's the radical idea that came out of ancient China from a teacher named Laozi. He basically proposed that the key to, well, everything wasn't about fighting against the current, but about aligning with this universal flow he called the Tao.
But who was this person really? Honestly, the answer is just shrouded in mystery. So let's try and peel back some of the layers on the legend known as the Old Master. First thing you should know is that Laozi isn't a typical name. It's actually a title, a sign of respect. It means Old Master or Venerable Master. And that tells you right away that this was a figure of immense wisdom, even back then. Now, to really get Laozi, you have to picture his world. He lived during a time of incredible chaos in China. The old dynasty was crumbling, warlords were battling for power. It was a mess. And it was out of this very disorder that thinkers like Laozi and his contemporary, Confucius, came along, both trying to answer the same big question. How do we fix this? How do we find peace and order again? So was he even a real person? You know, it's funny. The ancient historian Sima Qian couldn't even pin it down. In his records, he just presented a bunch of different possibilities. Was he an archivist named Li R, or another master? Maybe a historian? The truth is, a lot of scholars today think Laozi might be more of a legendary figure, maybe a combination of several wise people whose teachings all got bundled together over time.
There's this amazing legend that explains how his wisdom was supposedly saved for all of us. The story goes that Laozi got completely fed up with the corruption in society and decided, that's it, I'm out. He headed west to become a hermit. But at the final border gate, a guard recognized the old master and begged him, please don't let your knowledge just vanish with you. So, Laozi paused his journey, wrote down his essential thoughts, and created the legendary text of Taoism.
And that text, wow, it reveals this incredibly profound worldview. So let's unpack the core ideas inside, starting with the very heart of his philosophy, the Tao.
So what on earth is the Tao? Well, it's often translated as the way, and you can think of it as the underlying natural rhythm of the entire universe. It's not a god or a deity, but more like an impersonal, cosmic force that guides everything, from the way planets orbit to how a tiny seed grows into a huge tree. Okay, so if the Tao is the rhythm, then Wu Wei is how you dance to it. Now, this is one of the most misunderstood concepts in all of philosophy. It does not mean being lazy or doing nothing. It means acting in a way that is so perfectly aligned with the natural flow of things that your actions become effortless, yet incredibly effective. This analogy is just perfect. Think about it. If you're in the ocean and you try to fight the waves, you just get exhausted and go nowhere. But a surfer uses the power and the direction of the wave itself to move with grace and speed. That is Wu Wei. It's all about skillful, harmonious action, not just brute force. I mean, just think about it in nature. Water, which is totally soft and yielding, can wear away the hardest stone over time. Laozi was teaching that things like gentleness, flexibility, and patience, these are actually forms of immense strength. And you know, this whole idea of finding strength in softness leads us directly to another huge concept, one you've probably seen before, the dynamic dance of complementary forces.
And that, of course, is the principle of yin and yang. Now, this isn't about good versus evil, not at all. It's about the necessary balance of opposites. You just can't have light without darkness, or day without night, or strength without gentleness. Life isn't about choosing one and rejecting the other. It's about understanding that they actually need each other to create a complete, harmonious whole.
You can really see how this philosophy offered a totally different path. At the time, you had Confucianism, which was all about rigid social roles and order, and you had legalism, which was focused on super strict laws and harsh punishments. Taoism offered a third way. Find order by aligning with the natural world, not by trying to force human will on top of it. So, if you take just one thing away from this section, let it be this. Laozi's worldview transforms conflict into harmony. Instead of seeing life as a constant fight between opposing forces, he saw it as this beautiful, intricate dance, where every single part has its place and its purpose.
Now you might be thinking,
okay, this is some cool ancient philosophy, but what does it really have to do with anything today? Well, you would be surprised. The impact of these ideas is incredibly far-reaching and honestly shockingly modern. Let's look at the enduring legacy of Laozi's thought.
I mean, the ideas of naturalness, flow, and balance just seeped into everything. Chan Buddhism, which later became Zen in Japan, absorbed a ton of Taoist concepts. Practices like Tai Chi are literally Wu-Wei in motion. And today, when we talk about things like mindfulness or ecological balance, we're really just echoing ideas that Laozi was talking about over 2,000 years ago.
And what's really fascinating is how his political advice has been interpreted in completely different ways. Because he was so skeptical of authority and government interference, his work has been embraced by both anarchists on the left, who see it as a call for community without rulers, and libertarians on the right, who see him as one of the first champions of limited government.
This might just be one of the most brilliant and memorable pieces of political advice ever given. It's such a perfect, simple image, right? A leader's touch should be light. If you overmanage, over-legislate, or just interfere too much, you'll end up destroying the very thing you're trying to govern.
And that's exactly why his message still feels so radical, so revolutionary today. Our entire culture is screaming at us to do more, be more, control more. And here's Laozi whispering across the centuries for us to just step back, observe, and act with nature, not against it.
You know, when we think of the great figures of history, we often think of conquerors and kings, people who commanded huge armies and built massive empires through brute force. Laozi, he did none of that. His legacy isn't written in giant stone monuments. It's written in the potential for tranquility and peace inside each and every one of us. His ideas built a totally different kind of kingdom, one of inner peace and resilience.
So I'll just leave you with this thought. In our own lives, which are so often defined by striving and pushing and forcing, what might happen if we applied just a little bit of Wu-Wei? What could we achieve not by trying harder, but by simply letting go?